As you can see today, we are presenting as part of our monthly webinar series, Rewarding Your Employees, Bonus Plan Design. Like I said before, I think this is one of those topics that just about every contractor out there, whether you're the owner of the business or even the employees of a business, definitely something that's of interest to everyone. Just real quick, a little bit about Firestone Consulting Group. As you can see, we help businesses achieve success by delivering results through action and accountability. We have a team of experienced industry professionals that work with contractors to help them set their goals, create a strategic plan of how to achieve those goals. We're right there alongside you as you work to implement that strategic plan, and most importantly, we're right there with you, helping you celebrate when you do achieve success. Today, I have a special guest with me, Doug Phelps of Management Consultants for Contractors. Doug has a number of years of industry experience, both from the employee side of the table, from the owner side of the table, and now from a consultant standpoint. And when Doug and my paths crossed a few months back, we started talking, and bonus plans seem to be one of those topics that come up quite often with the contractors that we're working with. I think compensation in general is one of those topics that comes up. Not only what do we have to pay our employees to get them on board, to keep them around, but we also know that employees definitely want to share in the successes of the company, whether it's just a perception thing or I think really it boils down to perception that, the owners of the company are just stuffing all this money away in their pockets. Why aren't they sharing some of that with us for our hard work? And really that's where bonus plans or some type of an incentive structure is so important to the success of businesses. But definitely we don't want to jeopardize the success and the profitability of the company. I mean, as a business owner, that's what we're in business for, is return on our investment for the risks that we are taking to keep the business operational. But we also look at all the different ways that we can get more buy-in from our employees, from our team, without giving up equity in that business. And bonus plans are definitely one of those ways that we can do that. I guess I'm not going to probably do a complete justice here, Doug, with the introduction. So what I would like to do is I'm just going to flip the presentation over to you and let you continue to introduce yourself and kind of go from there.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. I see we have a nice group here attending today, and let me know when you get flip it over.
There we go. I'm gonna stop sharing mine, and I think I need to, maybe now you can share your screen, I think.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay. Well, as Matt said, I've been working with bonus plans since 1974, and that was as an employee. So that'll give you an idea of how long I've been doing this. And actually it's all in the construction industry. So the agenda today, I'm explaining a little bit about my background with bonus plans, both as an employee and a consultant. We're going to go through the discretionary bonus plan, which is probably the most popular plan in use today. And then we'll also go through some what I call other ineffective bonus plans. And then I'm going to go through the key criteria for bonus plans. And that's going to be from an ownership standpoint and from an employee standpoint. So as an employee, my first exposure to bonus plan happened in 1974 as a field worker. And I worked as an iron worker for 2.5 years before I took another job with a large international corporation, construction corporation, and started working out in project management. So the second exposure was from 76 to 88. So as an employee, I had 14 years of experience with bonus programs. Those two different companies, one a small family-owned business, and then this large, internationally, actually publicly traded corporation. There was a key thread through both of those both those companies and their plants. I had no clue how they worked or what I needed to do to increase my bonus. So if your idea is, if your intent is to have a bonus program to motivate people, to get them to work harder, don't you think they need to know how they affect the bonus program? So definitely my experience in those 14 years, it definitely was not a motivator. So they weren't getting out of it what they could have.
You know, Doug, this is one of those things that we've talked about in some of our previous webinars with, effective communication with employees. We talked about motivating and engaging our workforce. So I'm eager to hear what you have to say with how this all ties together with that whole engaging and motivating our employees.
Right. Well, I think you'll find that the type of program I'm going to describe is very engaging because it has a lot of transparency in it. It's also based on achieving team goals. It's very hard to get a team to work together or get a group of employees together to work as a team without team goals. So as an employee, the first attempt to develop a bonus program was in 1983, which I call my home brew. And at that time, I was the manager of construction and oversaw 15 construction crews throughout the United States. I decided on rewarding for man hours saved. And then I protected safety because I felt like, if we base it purely on man hours, the guys are going to take shortcuts with safety. So I tried to protect that. I also wanted to make sure that we weren't sacrificing quality because we had a really strong reputation for the sake of production. So I protected that. I submitted it to corporate and soundly rejected by a corporate VP with no really good reasons other than the fact I know he didn't read it. This is, I don't, they're going to take shortcuts if we do something like that. Well, he didn't read it. But that was a little ahead of time back in 1983. So as a consultant, my first bonus program I designed was in 1994. So that gives you an idea of how long I've been in consulting. And that was for a general contractor, actually a general contractor in New Jersey. And it was designed on the SMART goals principle. I think most of you are probably pretty familiar with that. SMART is, S is for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, reasonable, and then timely. So I wanted to have those guiding principles when we got together to design this bonus program.
And for those of you that are on the webinar, if you want some more information on the SMART goals, just go back and look at our January webinar that we have posted on our YouTube page.
Good. So the key criteria in designing any bonus program is you have to protect the company's profitability. If a company is not profitable, it cannot afford to pay out bonuses. So that's the number one ingredient in any bonus program, as far as from my point of view. And it should be team-based, especially in construction. So you have to establish team goals. And then all the team members share in the same goal. You've seen all those pictures, those motivational pictures of trying to get all the oars going in the right direction and the big boats. Well, one way to do that is to have a team goal. And then there has to be a connection between reward and performance. Those 14 years as an employee where I was in a bonus program, there was no reward, no connection, because I didn't know how it worked. So as a consultant, I feel like the goals should be based on what the employees most control and influence. And that is how much work gets done and what it costs to perform the work. So who's out doing the work? The field employees. There's a value attached to the amount of work they do. And while they're doing that work, they're incurring costs. And the costs have to be less than the value of the work in order for there to be a job level gross profit. So the primary team goal is achieving an annual job level gross profit, which is what I call gross margin contribution by the end of the year. And the reason I call it gross margin contribution is that profit has different meanings for different people. You can say job level gross profit, and they're going to think that's what the company makes. Obviously, gross margin funds overhead, and if it has to be high enough to fund the overhead and have enough net profits left over to fund the bonus program. So how we communicate it to the employees, or how I believe it should be communicated, is on what they control, and that's how much revenue does the company do because they're creating the revenue, and how much does it cost to do that revenue with the resultant leftover gross margin contribution.
Doug, as you've helped implement this in some various companies, how do you help I guess, the ownership or leadership of the company to not be concerned about the quality of work that their crews are performing? I mean, so much of it's focused on profitability and dollars and cents, that we don't want our workforce cutting corners to try to make the job more profitable, that we still want to have that high level of service. How do we create that balance, that we still have good customer service, a solid installation, but still are profitable on the job?
Right, well, that's a great question. One thing I explained to the employees, and this is really important, I want them to understand the concept between gross margin and cost. Now, if they're going out and cutting corners, it'll probably come back and haunt them in warranty. So when you have to go out and do a warranty recall, you're incurring costs, you're getting no revenue from that warranty. All you're doing is creating costs. And when you're out there performing that warranty job, you're not on a job where you should be creating gross margin. So it's like a double whammy, it's a double loss. So we really emphasize the importance over what it means from a rework or warranty standpoint. And so it has a direct impact on gross margin, which has a direct impact on their team goal.
So it sounds like it creates that balance of being efficient in the field and still driving the profitability.
It does. One thing we're very open about is job cost. We want the employees to understand, again, the relationship between cost and gross margin, but we want them to be able to establish daily goals based on the estimated cost, or weekly goals, however the job may be set up, so that they can see that they can see for themselves if they've done well for that day or for that week from a cost standpoint. That's how you provide motivation to people. If you just share information at the end, you're not helping them improve during the course of the project. You're not helping them reduce costs while the project's going on.
Sure.
So getting back to the gross margin contribution, I call it GMC as an abbreviation. I also have a GMC truck. So maybe it's obviously for gross margin contribution. It's not for the quality of it, but that's another story altogether. So the gross margin contribution is established through forecasting, and it has to be high enough to pay for the company's overhead, to have enough net profits left over to reinvest back in the company for the owner distribution and to fund the bonus program. So it protects company profitability. It establishes team goals because it's a collective effort of all the jobs or all the service calls in the company for that year and the resulting gross margin from that. So there's a team goal. Whoops. And all team members share in the same goal. We want to get them all on the same page. And then we establish the bonus pool opportunities and let them know what those opportunities are to connect reward and effort, or reward and performance. It's very important for a connection of reward and effort, or reward and performance. They have to know ahead of time what that possible bonus can be. Additional key components is there needs to be a formal rollout, and that's a company-wide meeting. I've always conducted rollout meetings because I've learned over the years what's important from a rollout standpoint. And that is, again, get the employees to understand how the bonus program works and what the relationship between cost and gross margin is. Higher cost, lower gross margin, lower cost, higher gross margin. We put it in writing for validation, and the written document supports the formal rollout meeting. So it defines the terms for clarity, which are defined in the rollout meeting. It establishes time frame and eligibility. And then it shares the bonus opportunities based on goals. So in each document an employee gets, they'll see what the goals are. There's incremental steps. So the better the team does in achieving the goals or exceeding the goals, the better their bonus opportunity is. So it's what I call a win-win program. The better the team does, the better the company does, and likewise, the better the company does from a gross margin standpoint and profitability standpoint, the employees do better. Win-win.
It sounds to me like there's just a ton of communication with how you have this plan design. And it's almost like that communication component is just as important as the profitability and the performance on the job site.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you cannot, without the communication, you won't be as profitable. If you're, those companies that hold things close to the vest and aren't very transparent, well, I would say responsibility resides with the person who has the information. So if that information isn't shared by way of communication or however you get it out into the field, then you cannot hold them responsible. So communication is obviously key. It's a key component for almost anything in business, whether it's a bonus program, trying to get your employees engaged, or establishing a strategic plan. Communication cannot be understated, the value of it anyway.
Sure.
So in the bonus program, we also develop conditions of the plan to minimize unforeseen consequences. These might be related to safety, job quality, attendance, things. There's a whole lot of different things that we can put in there. It's unique to each and every company to fit their culture. And then we establish that communication to compare actual performance to goals. And that communication comes out on a monthly basis. You can't wait till the end of the year to say, here's how we're doing on our plan, because people will not have had an opportunity to change the outcome. And that's the whole point of communicating on a monthly basis is to get them to help change the outcome, to improve the outcome.
So it's kind of like with a football team. That's why they have halftime, so we can make those adjustments. So as a contractor, we need to talk monthly and make the adjustments so it doesn't all of a sudden become November and we wonder why we aren't making any profit.
Exactly. I mean, I can get into a whole nother webinar on job costing, but basically I look at a job is the estimate is the score of the other team. The job conditions are the opponent. So when you're out there doing the job, the objective is to beat the estimate, improve the gross margin of how the job was bid. You cannot do that if you're not keeping score during the course of the game, knowing exactly where you are during the course of the game, so that you can make changes as needed. If you tried to play a sports game right now, and you didn't know what the time was, you didn't know what the score was, and then at the end of the game, everything gets posted, you say, well, if I'd known that, I'd have done something different.
Sure.
That's same thing with running the job and job costing. Yep. Well, anyway, some of those common types of bonus programs, probably the number one, the most common is discretionary. And that's, if the company does well, at the end of the year, ownership may pay out bonuses. Well, that's kind of like the bonus programs in my first 14 years that I didn't understand. So I didn't know what I had to do to earn a bonus or a higher bonus. It was always a mystery. That's what the discretionary bonus program is. The employees never know, because usually in the discretionary, everything's held close to the vest, and they don't know how the company is really performing. And all they know is, well, I worked as hard this year as I did last year. I should get the same amount or better bonus. So there's that disconnect between effort and reward. And it's based purely on trust. The employees have to trust that ownership will pay out a bonus if the company does well. And then ownership feels they're being generous, and then they get surprised when some employees seem to be disappointed. And the number one thing with discretionary does not require any advanced planning. So you don't have to plan ahead. You don't have to establish a goal. You just say, okay, at the end of the year, maybe the company made $1 million, and I'm going to hand out 100,000 of that $1 million. Now, how do I do that? And then you go through that process of being totally discretionary, of saying, well, he's going to get that, this other person's going to get that, and this. We do all that ahead of time with the type of bonus program I'm talking about. We do all the planning ahead of time. We say, okay, if we're going to make $1 million and we're going to hand out $100,000 of that million, we're going to say, okay, here's how it's going to be distributed to the employees. And we're going to let them know ahead of time. This is how that 100,000 is going to be handed out. They don't know what you made. They don't know that you made $1 million. That's not important. But they will know what that bonus amount is going to be. So the discretionary, as I kind of hinted around earlier, is about the only option for a close to the vest culture. And close to the vest does not help to build trust or accountability, because close to the vest means you're not sharing information. So the discretionary, if your intent is to have a bonus plan to drive performance, you're not going to get it with a discretionary plan. Sure, it's a great thing to do for your employees, but you're not getting anything out of it other than a nice thing to do for your employees. You're not improving the company's profitability. You're not driving performance. And then there will be those, and then there'll be times it backfires on you, because there's going to be some people who are disappointed in the amount that they got.
Doug, of the contractors that you've interacted with, what percentage would you say, use this discretionary type bonus program? I mean, is this probably the most common one that you see in the construction industry?
It is with the client base that I deal with. It is, without a doubt. There are a lot of others used, but I would say discretionary is the number one. I'm not a fan of it, because I don't think you're getting the value for what you're maybe handing out. But
there just seems to be a lot of unknowns with the discretionary. It's not, like you said there, it's not tied directly to performance of each individual.
That's correct. And, just being built purely on trust. I can tell you right now, I've heard this many times over the years. The employee will be disappointed with the amount of bonus money they got, that they received, and then they see, man, he got a brand new truck, talking about the owner, he or she got a brand new truck. They went to Europe on vacation, and this is what I get. If you base it on gross margin over what they control and influence, you eliminate a lot of that. You eliminate a lot of that kind of stuff, because all they have to worry about is how much work they're getting done and what it costs. What ownership does with overhead expenses is none of their business, and they won't be concerned with that as much, because all they know is, hey, if we reach a certain amount of gross margin at the end of the year, this is what I can get out of it. Sure. That's what you don't get with discretionary plan. I would say a discretionary plan is better than no plan, but
it's a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. You just don't know what's going to happen behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great analogy. Well, here are some other ineffective bonus plans. I say what I call normally home-brewed versions. Then one is the labor savings. Remember that one I designed in 1983? Yeah, 1983, based on labor savings. I would never do that now. What about all those other costs that field employees influence and control? Materials, equipment rentals, things like that. Indirect expenses like truck expenses, things like that. We want them to focus on minimizing those costs to help them get a higher gross margin to earn a higher bonus. So labor savings is not an effective program anymore. Job specific, where you bonus people who work on a specific job. Okay, I'm going to get on my second soapbox. I don't like this one at all. And it creates silos and destroys teamwork. By silos, people only care about the job they're working on. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about another job. They know they want the best people, they want the best equipment, and they don't want to give any of it back. The company shares all the rewards while absorbing the losses. It does not protect overall company profitability, which to me is the number one criteria. Because what if you have one job that does really well, and you have some others that don't do so well, and you wind up, and they don't do so well, so the fact that you don't have much profit or any profit left over at the end of the year, you may even have a loss, and you're handing out bonus money. Does that make financial sense? Well, it does not to me. So then the other thing is, what do you do if you have a really difficult job and you know it's a difficult job? What do? Normally you put your most talented people on it, right? So who gets what job becomes a fairness issue. If you're giving your most talented people the most difficult jobs, it's harder for them to earn the bonuses that somebody else may be getting, because you're probably putting your least talented people on the easier jobs, or the jobs that maybe you know you can make money on, even if you stick that person on it. So it definitely creates fairness issues. It does, as I said earlier, it does not encourage the sharing of resources, whether that be equipment, manpower, or knowledge. It's not team-based. It's individually based. So this is, and I know a lot of people go to this because it's kind of simple to set up in the beginning. Employees like it in the beginning because it's just rewarding them. And then you know what happens? Somebody say, I don't want to work on that estimator's job. His jobs never make any money. He's always missing stuff in the bid. It creates a chasm between the field and the office. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now. Other problems or the bonus amounts are not high enough or too high. Not high enough to provide enough motivation to change your course of action. Or they're too complicated. Nobody understands how they work. Or they're not team-based, like the job-specific one. They don't reinforce teamwork. They don't create teamwork. They keep changing. Well, we tried this one this year. It didn't work out so well. We had some unforeseen consequences. So I'm going to change it. We're going to do this one this year. Well, that didn't work out so well. Well, let me change. It's like the flavor of the year. And then there's not enough communication. Maybe too complicated. They don't understand it. There's not enough communication during the course of the year. They don't understand where the company is, how it's doing, how they're doing. Or maybe based on what employees have little control over. Now, I've heard people refer to my bonus program as a profit sharing plan. It is definitely not a profit sharing plan. Profit sharing plans are usually what you call qualified. They're regulated by the government. You have to do certain things within it. And they're also usually based upon reaching some or how they're understood is the company reached a certain net profit. Well, from an employee standpoint, they don't believe the bottom line. They feel that people manipulate the numbers in the overhead numbers to minimize the bottom line. So profit sharing, while it might be a nice perk, I don't believe it drives performance. And I think that's one of the purposes of a bonus program. I'd be curious, how many of you have a formal bonus plan now?
Tell you what, Doug, I got a poll here. I'm just going to go ahead and launch that poll that we'll let everybody participate in. First question is does your company have a formal bonus plan? Just yes, no, or maybe you don't even know. And then the second question or second part of that is what type of bonus plan do you have? Is it the discretionary plan that Doug described? Maybe it's more that project or per job, or something that you're not sure of. And it just, like the last one there, we just get something here and there. Maybe it's just called a Christmas bonus each year that you really don't know where it comes from, but every once in a while somebody hands you an envelope or hands you a check. We'll wait just a few more seconds here. We got about half the group has participated in this. Got a few more people doing it. I'll wait just about 5 more seconds here and we'll go ahead and end the poll and review the results here. Hopefully, let's see, there we go. Hopefully everybody can see the results there. So Doug, hopefully you can see that on your end there, but looks like it's more than half the group. Wow, kind of surprised there. Half the group does not have a formal business or formal bonus plan. And kind of like we talked before, not really surprised then that those that do have a bonus plan, that the high percentage is the discretionary bonus plan. Any surprises on your end, Doug?
No, and actually, I like the something, just not sure what it is. I hear you. I've experienced that.
Yep. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close that here, and then I'll let you keep going.
Thank you. It was interesting. Okay. Okay, why do so many bonus plans fail? Okay, here's a, this is so true. Ownership believes it's a cure-all for motivation. Well, when human motivation is very complicated, and there's been so many people who built careers on human motivation, and human motivators are all over the place. But and it varies from person to person based upon where they're at in their life at that time. But I can tell you one thing: if the employees are treated poorly, whether it be from ownership, job superintendent, job foreman, or there's a lot of chaos within the team they're working, no amount of money is going to motivate them. So it's not a cure-all, but it is an ingredient to help better motivate employees. Ownership's not clear on the objectives of the bonus plan. So that goes primarily in the design of it. It fails to deliver the results. Well, there's lack of experience in designing a bonus plan. So that gets into, well, that one didn't work. Let's try this one this time. And inadequate communication. I don't care what type of bonus program you have. If you want to motivate your employees, you want that connection between reward and performance, there has to be adequate communication between how the company is performing, how the team is performing in comparison to the goal. It's like keeping score during the course of the game. And unforeseen consequences. I think I've given some examples of that already. So again, key criteria for an effective bonus plan from an owner's point of view, I think this is what I would hope they would want, is it has to protect the company's profitability. It should improve employee productivity. If not, why have it? And if you improve employee productivity, you should also improve the company's profitability. The company's profits should be higher after an implementation of a bonus plan, or why have it? And it has to provide a method to fairly distribute bonus payments to employees. And that needs to be done all ahead of time and not after you determine how much money you're going to hand out at the end of the year and they all hope you're in a good mood. From an employee's point of view, it has to answer, what's in it for me? The bonus needs to be lucrative enough to give reasons to change current practices. You're not going to get, I do a presentation on minutes count. I show them the value of minutes. I do this in the rollout meeting. And usually I pick like 20 minutes a day. If you lose 20 minutes a day, here's the impact on your gross margin at the end of the year if every employee loses 20 minutes. It doesn't matter on what the reasons are why they lose the 20 minutes. It adds up to be a big number. And because not only are you're losing 20 minutes a day, you're not generating revenue or margin, you're also not out working another 20 minutes on the new project that you could be working on. So to get people to change that mindset that, oh, I don't care, we can spend 20 minutes now talking about the game last night. If you want to get them to, we'll just take 10 minutes longer for lunch today. If you want to change that mindset, there has to be a lucrative enough reason. Joe Achiever needs to get higher bonus than Joe Slacker. So within the plan, there needs to be a way to reward those who create more value to you or to the company than those that don't. Stars want to be rewarded. They don't want to get the same as those who don't perform as well as them. You need to let them know what they need to get the bonus. Again, that's a slam against the discretionary plan. It has to be understood, easily understood. It can't be too complicated. Use measurable KPIs, key performance indicators that employees most control and or influence. And then how will I know? How will I know how I'm doing? How will I know how the company is doing? There has to be consistent communication with the employees. You need to keep them engaged. And there has to be that transparency. This is an annual plan. I have so many people say, how can we shut this? How can we make this shorter? How can we do like a quarterly plan or a monthly plan? Well, in construction, we measure the financial viability of company based on an annual fiscal basis. And that's how we base this plan on. To break it down short, you could have a job that you think is going really well. And so you have like a quarterly plan and you look at all your jobs. I think they're doing really well. You hand out bonus money. Then all of a sudden, something goes south. Maybe it went south before you knew it, but you hand out bonus money already. But it goes south. And then the next thing you know, you're not making the profit you thought you'd be making, and you already handed out some bonus money. So we want to do it on an annual basis. And we want to share that, how the company is doing, that transparency, share with the employees how the company is doing on a monthly basis so that we're upfront, so that also they have the time to make changes, to be able to change it, to improve the outcome.
Doug, to me, it's still kind of going back to my football analogy. You got to play all 4 quarters of the game to know who truly is the winner. They don't determine a winner after the first quarter at halftime and the third quarter. You got to play all 4 quarters. Absolutely
right. That's absolutely right. I like your analogies. I'm going to use some of these. and then of course you need to put it in writing, give it validation. So in my experience, since I've been doing this since 1994. That's a lot of years. I've said this, I don't know how many times I've said this today already, but to me, it's critical. It has to protect the company's profitability. And a lot of those don't. Should be based on achieving a minimum team goal, team-based. Team members share in the same primary goal. A lot of this is kind of a summary of what we've already gone through, but I don't think some of this cannot be emphasized enough. Ability to earn more money by exceeding the minimum goal. So there's incremental steps. You can have like, here's our plan. Here's a level 2, level 3, level 4, up to maybe level 10. And I've always kept the percentages between these steps small. Maybe the gross margin only increases 2.5% from plan to level 2, 2.5% from the level 2 number to level 3, et cetera. And to keep those numbers small, because I want them to believe that the job they're working on or what they do individually can have an impact on the overall performance of the team. If you have really large steps, they can't see how they get from one to the next. So there's a lot of transparency. We openly share job cost information down to the foreman level. He may share some with the field employees or maybe his crew leaders at certain. We don't really get down into the lowest guy on the totem pole sharing information. What we share with him is what his productivity should be to achieve goals that enable him to beat the estimate. So, and then establishing the goals, we want to involve key team members to establish the goal. The gross margin goal should not be something pulled out of the air and becomes the owner's goal. You want to involve your key team members. That would be your project managers, your estimators, people who have a big impact on what the annual revenue is going to be for the year and what the gross margin is going to be for the year. Get them involved, get their buy-in, make it their goal, not just ownership's goal. Then there needs to be a thorough explanation of how the goal is established. The goal is established through a process. You forecast your backlog out, you establish how much more in and out work you need to do in order to achieve your gross margin goal, which will pay for your overhead and have enough net profit at the end to fund a bonus program. Explain to them how that's done. And then they'll understand that's driven by what they most influence control. They create the revenue or the income or the sales in company by performing the work. They incur the costs. So revenue minus cost is gross margin contribution. So that connects effort with reward because you're sharing information. They know what the costs are. They know they understand what the gross margin goal is, and then they also know ahead of time what their bonus opportunity is. So you've established the bonus pool amounts by classification. You may have a bonus pool for foreman, bonus pool for journeyman, a bonus pool for laborers, et cetera. You determine how those bonus pools will be distributed among the classifications. And then how you distribute that money within that classification, you want to reinforce some team concept. You might take part of that pool, divide equally, but then you have to have another way of ensuring that the Joe achiever in that classification gets more bonus than Joe slacker. That's a process. It's a process that doesn't take long to do. Once you see it in place, you understand it. It's how you tie everything together. It's gone through you go through forecasting and budgeting. And usually when I say those two words, I see eyes glaze over. But what it does is it creates a forward-thinking environment, a forward-thinking culture in your company. This type of bonus program, if you don't have one now or you have a different one, this will change the culture in your company. It will create a more forward-looking, a more proactive environment in your company. Already said that. Let the employees know what their bonus opportunity is ahead with certain goal achievements. Now, upper management's bonus plan structure could be different. Depending upon the size of the bonus, depending upon the value of that employee, you may have a vesting period for their bonus payouts, which is also called golden handcuffs. Maybe you hand out only half their bonus the first year, then another quarter the second year, another quarter the third year. And they have to be an employee of record in order to get that second year or the remaining 50%. So you kind of hold them within, it's called golden handcuffs. A lot of different ways you can handle bonus distributions. But you're seeing that this is very different than the majority of the discretionary plans. So communication, keeping the employees in the loop, because again, it's an annual program. Report team progress toward goal on a monthly basis, and then take control. And here is the beauty of this program. Not only are you reporting what the company has done in relationship to that goal on a monthly basis, you're also looking ahead in the process. You update your backlog forecasts. You look at how much more service work you might do, et cetera. You look at for the next 3 months, see what that looks like. And you let them know, hey, this is what it looks like for the next 3 months. Just lost one of my ear pods. So, are we still there?
Yep, we can still hear you.
Okay, sounded different. So this is what I call a scorecard. We show, and this gives the owner a view into the future. And it's what I call a working forecast, where we compare to the plan. It's a very important part of this process, but I've had, obviously being in business this long, doing bonus programs this long, there have been years when my clients could not support a bonus program. 2008, 2009, where all they were just trying to do is survive and stay in business. But we still kept the process in place. And that's kind of like a different webinar, but I just want to make a point that a bonus program, whereas I don't think the per job, I think that per job will change your culture to the negative. I don't think that the discretionary plans really do much in changing your culture. This will, because there's that direct connection between reward and performance. Whether it's this plan or some other plan, you've got to have the connection between reward and effort, reward performance. And this is the other thing, I know you've talked about strategic plans, or Matt, you mentioned that earlier. Well, this is kind of like a financial strategic plan, where you set that budget up for the year, establish your goal for the year, involve your key team members in helping to develop that goal, and then develop strategies during the course of the year to change the outcome. So if you're running behind plan, what can we do to get back on plan? If you're running ahead of plan, what can we do to stay ahead of plan? What we can do to jump from level 2 to level 6. So, okay. Ownership actions must support the bonus plan if you want it to be effective. And key team members actually must support the bonus plan. Essentially, what you're doing is you have to make sure you provide the necessary support to help the field be successful. I went to I'm going to wind this up pretty quick here. I went to an ASA meeting, which is American Subcontractors Association meeting once, and they had 3 big general contractors in on a panel discussion, and then the audience was subcontractors. They asked the general contractors, what do you see as the biggest issue of the subcontractors that you hire? And the number one issue, unanimous between all 3 contractors, they don't receive the support they need from the office. Well, if you're not providing necessary support to help the field be successful, a bonus program will not solve that for you. So in summary, the success is driven by those who can most affect it by establishing those benchmarks from which to measure performance with a predefined reward for achieving or exceeding the team's potential or goals. So I think we can open up questions now.
Yeah, that would be great. Feel free to use the Q&A portion of Zoom, or you can put it into the chat. If you are connected with a microphone, we'd love to hear from you as well. So feel free to, I think you have to raise your hand and I can unmute you, or maybe you can just unmute your mic yourself. But we would love any questions that you have for Doug. Doug, I want to thank you for taking the time to share with us this information. Definitely would say that through the amount of time that you've spent doing this, that there seems that you've refined and fine-tuned the process. Okay, so I do have a question here, Doug. Tracy asked,
Sure.
Can you give some examples of how to pool by classification? So I think that went back to the slide where you talked about having the different
Sure.
classifications. If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Absolutely. We set up a spreadsheet, and we put in the classification names, the number of people per classification. Then we established a value for that classification. And then that value, based on the number of people in the classification, determines what overall percentage of bonus pool amount that group's going to get. So the people that contribute the higher or have a higher value to the organization get a higher base value in that spreadsheet. And we're working with a fixed, by that time, when you get to that point, you're working with a fixed bonus pool amount. So every time you change a base value, the pool amounts for everybody is going to change. You're going to essentially, if you raise a base value, say for foreman, they're going to take money, or that pool amount of money is going to come from other people with lower base values. Well, it's actually going to come from everybody. But it's done through a spreadsheet. And the important thing is, the higher the value, the higher the bonus opportunity.
Great, thanks, Doug. Follow-up question here from Tracy is, do you have any guidelines for evaluating employees' performance besides profitability? Doug, I'm gonna add my 2 cents on that, and then I'll let you take it from there.
Sure.
Tracy, we do a whole series on employee motivation and engagement. We actually had a webinar on that talks about looking at each individual and not so much lumping them into these categories, field, office, superintendents, apprentices, whatever that might be. But it's looking at those individuals, and some people are just there to put in their 40 hours and do what somebody tells them. Others have that high potential for excelling in the organization. And I think that's where we need to look at each individual and figure out where do they want to be in the organization, and probably more importantly, where as the business owner do we want them to be or see their potential in the future. And then it's kind of, to Doug's point with this bonus program, is aligning those goals with what they have control over as far as the performance goes. I'm a big fan of the 360 performance evaluations, where we have evaluations done by the supervisor, the employees' peers, and any direct reports that they have. And there's some ways that we can even do that anonymously, depending on the size of the organization. But that really gets the best performance review, or looking at performance, looking at that individual employee beyond just maybe a personality conflict with a manager that they have that gives them a bad review. Doug, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I do. Oftentimes, there's a lot of different ways to distribute bonus money, but oftentimes we'll say, okay, Mr. Project Manager, your bonus pool opportunity is $3,000. We're going to give you half of that just based purely upon the performance of the company. So you're going to, if the company achieves their plans, you're going to get $1,500. The other half is going to be based upon you achieving these certain objectives. And they would be objectives related specifically to their performance. Now, maybe in the beginning, maybe your project managers aren't great at doing margin reviews, or maybe they've never done backlog projections. So we would make that part of their objectives. So that in order for them to achieve the entire 3,000, the company has to first meet the financial objectives, gross margin goal, and then they have to achieve certain personal objectives. So it can be all tied back together, and you can even tie that into a performance review. You say, okay, this is what you're weak on. This is what we want you to improve on. Or we want you to make this one of your strengths, and integrate it with the bonus program through objectives.
Great. Got a couple more questions here. Next one, what kind of productivity / profitability gains have you seen over the years going with this kind of program as opposed to, say, a discretionary program? So I guess I think the way I interpret that question is what does it do for the company's bottom line to use your type of bonus program versus just the discretionary program?
Sure. What I've seen, I think what is safe to say is you can expect a 5% to 7% gain in labor. Now, what that means is that your labor costs, and this is like a double win too, by the way. On my website, I have the justrewards.plan.com. I have a labor savings calculator, but if you put in there how much waste you think you have in labor, that'll calculate to you what that really means in overall profitability. But if you can save, say 7% on your current productivity, not only do you save that 7% on the work that you're currently doing, you increase your job, you can increase the capacity of your workforce, which is really important nowadays when there's such a shortage of labor. So I would say safely 7%. Great,
thank you. And the last question I have so far, and we definitely have a couple minutes left, is so the question is, it says, this appears to be largely financially based. Do you find this to be a substantial motivator as opposed to other various benefits we can offer?
It's financially based in the fact that that we're trying to connect between reward and effort. Yeah, I mean, you can look at, there are a lot of different things that go into your compensation package, just not a bonus program. You know, it's, what do you pay your people? Are you competitive there? What are your health benefits? What are your vacation holiday plans, things like that. That all goes as part of the, I think Matt mentioned earlier, the overall compensation plan. I say you want to make sure that this bonus program is very powerful, but if you want to have an engaged and motivated workforce to begin with, you have to be competitive in your work area.
Yeah. And I think
overall compensation plan has to be competitive.
Yeah, and I think, Doug, to kind of echo what you're saying there, I think, you know, based on what I heard you say with the bonus program, there's got to be some structure around that where you have to know what are my inputs, or how are my inputs rewarded. You have to have the KPIs, you have to have those specific dollar amounts, where maybe some of these other things, when we look at benefits, those are some of those incentives. Maybe it's flexible work schedules of how we can be that ideal contractor to come and work for. That, you know, I'm thinking back to some of the employees that I managed. You know, some of them, yeah, the almighty dollar was, you know, what spoke loudest, but others, you know, had family obligations and they wanted, you know, some flexibility to attend school activities with their kids and things like that. That I think that's where it just becomes some of those other motivational things, some of the other ways that we can engage and take care of our employees to keep them around, that I think the bonus piece is just part of that overall package.
Right. And another part of this, the bonus program, when I mentioned transparency a lot, that's when you start sharing information with employees that you probably have never shared before. And that makes them feel more important, makes them feel more a part of the team. And transparency is a great way to change your current culture and improve your employees' productivity.
Yeah, another comment here in the chat, and I think, Ken, it's so true. He said some employees don't care about the bonus money. They would rather spend more time at home. And I think that's where we have to, as business owners, be flexible, make those adjustments, and truly find out what motivates each one of our individual employees. Like I said, thinking back to some of the people I managed, had an employee who had a son that played college football. He wanted Friday afternoons off so he could go and travel to watch his son play. Had some younger employees that had growing families, and they definitely liked any extra money they could to help with those expenses at home. But as a manager, you got to work to come up with what's that best package that works for everybody and motivates them. So we are, I guess, to the end of our program here. I don't have any other questions that are submitted. I guess we'll wait just a moment longer for maybe one final question. On the screen there, you can see how to get a hold of me at Firestone Consulting Group. I will be sending out a link to today's recording for everyone that was in attendance. We'll also include Doug's contact information in that. Again, Doug, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience with bonus programs, not only for my benefit, but for the benefit of our audience. Thank you to everyone that did attend today's webinar. Hopefully today's presentation was informative and insightful to you. Maybe there's something there that you can take and implement with your company. Doug, any final comments that you would like to share with the group? And we'll go from there.
No, I just want to thank you, Matt, for the opportunity, and I appreciate you sending out my contact information too. If there's any questions I can ask anybody, I'd be free to, feel free to ask. And again, thank you so much, and appreciate all the participants and the questions.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we look forward to seeing you next month at our monthly webinar series.